So you built yourself a brand new gaming rig. You've slotted your sweet new graphics card into the PG slot. You've sealed up the case, and you've heard it all post. Congrats. Now it's time to throw games at your brand new build until it breaks. Then cry when you realize if you'd spent just $200 more you could have run the game in 4K instead of mere 1080p. Don't know what to play? No old favorites? Well, allow us to point you in the right direction when it comes to handing your computer a stack of heavyweights and saying lift this. These 10 punishing PC games will bring even powerful rigs to their knees, but the eye candy is utterly delicious. Stay tuned. Playing as Big Boss, you do stuff and end up having to do more stuff. Even a brief overview of the story would take too long to explain in this video, so I'm not even going to try. The gameplay involves using primary stealth tactics to complete mission objectives, but it's understandable if you adopt the "no one will notice if there's no one to notice" tactic. After the stellar graphical showcase of Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, Metal Gear fans had expectations for the Phantom Pain to build upon the foundation established by Ground Zeroes as build projects run on the Fox engine. But the Phantom Pain would have more time for development and improve visual quality. Instead, development went in the complete opposite direction, with the Phantom Pain tearing down all the firm foundations Ground Zeroes has established. It is very disappointing as the Fox engine's power is relatively underutilized. There are no more dynamically generated paddles that have their reflection and splash effects. Screen-based reflections are gone entirely. There are fewer reflective surfaces and reduced reflection quality overall. There are fewer dynamic light sources, and intersecting shadows acted discrete complex layers found in Ground Zeroes. But being able to move freely about the in-game locations of Africa and Afghanistan, the sheer scale of the open world merits mention. The Fox engine allows for dynamic weather conditions. Rain can become a useful element, hopping musty approach to your enemies. The live day-night cycle can change the direction of shadows, creating different possible approaches depending on the time. The game's characters are brought life using facial mapping and motion capture. The characters of Big Boss and Quiet borrow from the likeness of Kiefer Sutherland and Stephanie Jewson respectively, with both actors delivering outstanding performances. Ensuring breast physics development receives a return on investment. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain splashes into 10th place on the countdown. Dying Light takes you into the quarantine Turkish city of Harran, as Kyle Crane, an agent of the fictional GRE global relief effort, which is a consolidation of real-life organizations, the UN, FEMA and Red Cross. A viral outbreak in Harran has mutated the infected residents into zombies and monsters with varying levels of aggression and physical capability. The few remaining survivors scavenged abandoned dwellings for supplies while awaiting opportunities to make tracks across the hazardous cityscape to secure antigen. The vaccine from airdrops. Your superiors want you to focus on your missions, but you become too involved in the survivors' struggles and have to make impossible choices as your loyalty is put to the test. Dying Light's story is a rather cliched telling of government corruption and moral dilemmas, and the characters are unrelatable and underdeveloped, but the gameplay and the visual experience more than make up for narrative shortcomings. Chrome Engine 6. The upgraded version of Dead Island's engine is running on its maximum horsepower in creating the open world of Dying Light. The game's graphics lack polish in some areas, with occasional shadowing errors and blend small object detailing, but all the positive visual elements combined make for an engaging, living, or should I say the unliving world. Dynamic weather system gives surfaces reflective qualities from the rain, trees and grass swaying in the wind, and objects and actors are properly included in a variety of lighting conditions. Square inch per square inch. Harran is one of the most detailed gaming cities. The city has numerous fully realized and explorable structure interiors which feed into the addicting craft of mechanic as you can get obsessive about riffling through every last drawer and cabinet looking for supplies. Harran's verticality is only surprised by the city of Assassin's Creed. Parkour is a critical gameplay element allowing you to take advantage of the urban verticality to find shortcuts across the rooftop and through the alleys while avoiding zombies. Nothing can prepare your mind for the psychological torture that SOMA delivers. From the creators of Amnesia, The Dark Descent comes another survival horror experience, which starts with an experimental medical visit takes you down the rabbit hole again, this time in an underwater research facility. While searching despairingly for human help, more mysteries unravel about what happened to those who previously inhabited the station, and you realized the entirety of humanity's future depends on your success. Meanwhile, those who would see you fail unleash biomechanical monsters to kill you, and you have no weapons with which to fight them. Worst doctor's visit ever. In providing the surreal setting of SOMA's underwater world, the graphical artist crafted an immersive environment that simultaneously inspires curiosity and chills to the bone. Dimly lit quarters induced trepidation and wondering. Destroyed equipment, toppled furnishings and scattered remains of workers litter the decks. Communications records, and relics of past employees add the context to their final moments. Biomechanical mutations contaminated the hardware. SOMA's graphical prowess doesn't come from pixel-perfect rendition. In fact, some of the close-range textures are muddled, and much smaller object geometry has sharp edges, but rather a level of immersion that the game creates through its atmosphere. The deliberate gameplay interactions, like having to drag a door all the way closed instead of just hitting a button, increases the level of engagement with the game. The world of SOMA takes some design cues from BioShock's Rapture but occurs in the future instead of an alternate history. Upon hearing the rumbling and heavy footsteps of the biomechanical monsters resonate through the bulkheads, you almost expect to see a big daddy guarding a little sister in the next corridor, for creating a claustrophobic nightmare that induces the feeling of drowning while being perfectly dry. SOMA smashes a window into 8th place on the countdown. The next game on the countdown is Project Cars. It is an acronym standing for Community Assisted Racing Simulator. No, that is not lame at all. It's the best that they could come up with, and it makes it sound cooler than just being like the game about cars I supposed. The primary mission of the simulator is to create a virtual driving experience with as realistic as possible visual, audio and vehicle performance characteristics. Whether it accomplishes the driving authenticity goals is a topic for more seasoned racing simulator enthusiasts, but even a casual gamer with no racing experience will acknowledge the realism of Project Cars' graphics. The cars have incredible levels of detail reaching up to over 300,000 polygons on some models, with shots of them side by side. The in-game models are virtually indistinguishable from pictures of their real-life counterparts. In the motion, the game has even more realistic scenes incorporating dynamic illumination and reflection while not as the same quality as drive clubs. The run effects are excellent, enabling physics-based splashing and adding a layer of wetness to increase the number of reflective surfaces. Photorealism or not, there are inexcusable flaws in Project Cars' visual quality. The background scenery is so underdeveloped that it creates a comical contrast with the cars, sometimes making it look like the cars are driving in front of the local news station green screen with an unpaid intern doing the editing. The damaged models and crash effects are laughable for a game that prioritizes realism. Although disappointing, Project Cars does give the car porn addict their wet dream. Project Cars Go-Karts into 7th place on the countdown. For this year's Best Graphics Countdown, the entirely coincidental choice for number 6 is Rainbow Six Siege. the latest installment in the tactical shooter franchise. The game facilitates intense, high-stakes close-quarters combat. 2-5 operator teams take turns attacking and defending an objective. No team has time for complacency. The competitive nature of the game design punishes the smallest mistake. Even the casual multiplayer playlist is unforgiving. There's no respawning once you die. Dead players watch the living battle and have the entire rest of the round to analyze their mistakes or complain angrily about the forums about horrible netcode. Fortunately, while you're waiting for your chance to redeem yourself in the next round, you have a front row seat to the best implemented distraction in gaming. There are endless obstacles and barricades that can be blown apart, shot through or torn down, and the distraction isn't scripted. Environmental components disintegrate dynamically. Shooting through a door, hitting it with your gun, or setting off or breaching charge destroys it indifferent in every active way. The distraction is more than eye candy. It is a critical component of tactical gameplay. The best players improvise murder holes that give them optimum consummate for a line of sight on breaching enemies. The team's artists did their homework and researching modern combat arms and model their in-game counterparts with true-to-live features like having the magazine cache engaged. Even the optics features subtle details like scratches on the anodizing. With advanced shadowing, lighting and reflection, NVIDIA's advanced ambient occlusion creating realistic interiors, you almost feel sorry for wanting to blow up everything in sight. Almost. Rainbow Six Siege repels into 6th place on the countdown. Visiting the world of The Witcher 3, you live the story of Geralt of Rivia, a monster hunter with supernatural abilities brought about biochemical mutations and lifelong training. The entire kingdom faces otherworldly threats and the Wild Hunt, an army of spectral riders. Geralt traverses an open world of no man's land with corpse-litter battlefield, swamps and monster nesting grounds to find the Emperor's daughter and save the kingdom from impending doom. It's inevitable that placing The Witcher 3 this low on the countdown will upset many viewers, as The Witcher 3 had received so many Games of the Year awards, with graphics poised to set a new generational standard as a major selling point. The graphics has an overall pleasing quality but underwhelm in many critical areas. The graphical quality has significantly declined from the original development direction. Textures on architecture are less developed and flattered in comparative open-world games with fewer discrete elements that comprise a realistic appearance, such as roofing panels, wood grain, and stone building surfaces even when viewed at a relatively close distance. Particles, smoke and atmospheric fog effects abundant in early development videos have all been removed entirely. Foliage, water, and geographical elements have the sharpness of a pastel watercolor painting, but not in the aesthetically pleasing way. Self-shadowing and occlude assets are scant, and the actual shadows themselves appear painted on instead of the natural-looking soft-edge shadows we've come to expect from modern games. The Witcher 3 ignites into 5th place on the countdown. The Assassin Order has not yet realized the unfavorable logistics of bringing a knife to a gunfight, as Assassin's Creed Syndicate takes place in an industrialized Victoria-era London. You were alternately playing as either Jacob or Evie Fry, male and female twin assassins, but the rest of the gameplay remains virtually unchanged. Keep mashing the attack button and carry on. What keeps the series interesting is the vivid portrayal of historic cities, bearing with the series model of history being your playground. Victorian-era London comes to live with attention to art direction on the level of Oscar-bait Hollywood blockbusters. From traveling the city, you get a sense of a country rising to devote every possible resource to manufacturing, mass production and mechanization. You also see many of the effects of industrialization on society and living conditions. Child labor powers many of the factories. Living in slums, much of the working class suffers poverty and poor standards of living. The world is so developed that the only thing that could compare to this level of detail is if a Charles Dickens novel physically manifested its settings and characters as you read it. Indeed, I learned more about the day-to-day lives and living situations of Pip and Oliver Twist from a few minutes of playing Syndicate than my hundreds of hours writing book reports in the classic literature. Victorian themes of imperialism, wealth and corruption are reflected in the gameplay as well, with some eccentric background characters and activities. There is some artistic liberty and exaggeration when designing the world, especially to make it fit the context of the game and make it interesting. Assassin's Creed Syndicate commits Grant of the Carriage into 4th place on the countdown. Grand Theft Auto 5 is approaching its 3rd birthday, but it has been available on PC for less than 1 year. The PC version is far more than simple remaster. Many of the game's visual elements have been rebuilt to take advantage of the PC's hardware advantage over consoles. Many are sure to question whether Grand Theft Auto 5 is worthy of a spot this low on the countdown. The concerns are valid because some aspects of GTA 5 are visually inferior to many other games behind it on the countdown. Much of the geography has unrealistically sharp corners and have textures that don't hold up against when viewed closely. The character models and building interior detailing are very simple. We can keep listing areas where other games outperform Grand Theft Auto 5, but since they are so numerous, we've never finished this countdown. GTA 5 can go toe-to-toe in the pixel-to-pixel comparisons with other heavy hitters on the list. However, the strength of GTA 5's graphics are what it accomplishes within a world of unrivaled scale. Rockstar has always set the standard by which all other open-world games are judged. Other games can only hope to have as active and diverse world on the same scale as GTA 5. Los Santos has the authentic look and feel of a Southern California city with a dense and diverse population, all of whom can have unique interactions. But for everyone's best interest, the constant gridlock does not make an appearance. The in-game city mirrors its real-life counterpart. They're a different vibe and atmosphere from the business center than the suburban neighborhoods. You can visit historical landmarks like Vinewood Boulevard and the Los Santos River while driving around. At the infrastructure and architecture have photorealistic quality. The environment diversely continues when you go north into the wilderness. If you need a break from driving, you can always go swimming and explore underwater, or you can take the disguise. You can choose to play the game in third person or first person. Graphics technology is well implemented as the PC version has more realistic lighting, shadowing, and reflections, especially when seen at night. With the busy world and endless ways to explore it, Grand Theft Auto 5 brings the Black Lives Matter movement into third place on the countdown. Batman: Arkham Knight takes you back into the open world of Gotham as you fight the Arkham Knight and Scarecrow, who threatens the release of bioweapons into the city. Batman has new armor giving him greater stealth and hand-to-hand capabilities. Dispatching enemies are more efficient than ever. Fighting controls are fluid and responsive, and the Batmobile becomes an important weapon to turn the tide. Summoning the Batmobile to get you out of a tight spot is thrill. Few games have the intensity to reproduce. The PC version of Batman released with technical difficulties that gave the poor game performance even on powerful hardware, and Steam even removed the game from its store until its performance improved. After a series of fixes, the game runs better on a wider range of hardware, but in many gamers' eyes still cannot overcome its original label of the figurative crash test dummy. Technical hurdles aside, Batman: Arkham Knight is one of the most graphically intensive games with modern effects powered by NVIDIA GameWorks features. Although the base game engine still builds upon an Unreal Engine 3, GameWorks gives the city of Gotham a level of detail unmatched by any other game world. Physics and turbulence technology allow for dynamic smoke, Dust and debris effects especially apparent when driving the Batmobile and seeing the cloud of smoke from drifting. Vapor trails from rockets can diffuse if you move through them or blow them aside with the air from the wake of your Batmobile handling. Even more impressive are how smoke and dust clouds are capable of self-shadowing, producing an even more realistic scene. Clothes like Batman's cape and jackets on main characters also use physics technologies to have realistic soft cloth characteristics when moving. You can destroy many surfaces and objects, watching them break into small fragments, each having their physics properties. Batman: Arkham Knight summons the Batmobile into second place on the countdown. Some of my best gaming memories come from playing Battlefront 2's Galactic Conquest mode, an all-night gaming with friends. Therefore, I was disappointed when the latest Battlefront release doesn't provide the same content depth and variety. All of that goes out the window when you see an AT-AT bearing down on your defenses, a Star Destroyer in the sky, and you come face to face with a barrage of blaster fire. Using the Frostbite 3 engine as a starting point, Battlefront's developers and artists set out to create the most visually accurate representation of Star Wars battles, bringing memorable experiences of the silver screen to the LED display. Battlefront's graphical quality exceeds that of the prequel trilogy's CG, heavily featured and developing the game's environments. Photogrammetry technology allows regeneration of game assets from photos. The artists visited real-world locations that form the basis of Star Wars world, like the Redwood Forest in California for Endor, and took meticulous detail to photograph the actual life inspiration for the game's maps, using photogrammetry technology to create the most authentic to virtual life depiction of Star Wars. Battlefront's geography is gorgeous. The ice fields of Hoth have the most visibly pleasing snow in any video game. It's not just a flat texture, there's an actual depth of the snow, and you make footprints. It's so fluffy looking that no one would blame you if you wanted to ignore all the fighting around you to drop and make snow angels. The forest moon of India has dense foliage and diverse flora with lushness and detailed texturing that rivals even the vegetation from the Crisis games. The game has support for up to 20 players on each team. Even with high player counts, the game has consistent and stable performance on PC, even on older hardware. For a game of this level of graphical intensity, that is no small feat. Hats off to the PC development team. Star Wars Battlefront is the most immersive Star Wars experience from any video game, faithfully creating the look and feel of battles in the movie. Star Wars Battlefront Force shows first place on the countdown. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. I hope you enjoyed this countdown. After leaving a comment about how you would have ranked these games, let me know if there are any upcoming games you hope to see on next countdown.
I'm gonna throw my memories away. Now I feel I'm done, and I am cursed by every day till my time is gone. I've never felt this way before, and now I know this all for sure. I won't forget your last betray. I'll never forget this day.